coverage continues now with the shock waves from today's verdict.
And its potential impact on the upcoming election. KCAL News political reporter Tom Wade is here now with that part of the story. It's a big one.
It's a big one, Pat, and I think we're all just trying to wrap our minds around this very historic moment, right? So we really, of course, won't know until the election what impact this case will or will not have. But experts say if the election is close, the verdict may have an impact.
We are getting word on the first count that Donald Trump is guilty.
One of the most consequential moments in modern American history. Former President Donald Trump found guilty on 34 counts, including scheming to corrupt the 2016 election. As the dust settles on this monumental verdict, the question becomes, how will American voters react?
It's not clear how the American public is going to feel about this.
Longtime LA leader Zev Yaroslavsky.
I think it's going to take some time, a few days, a few weeks for this to settle into the American public and to sit back and take it all in that a former president of the United States and the presumptive nominee of the Republican Party for president in 2024 is a convicted felon. Think about that for a second. How many politicians would even dream or fantasize about running for office having been convicted of a felony?
Recent polling in battleground states shows some voters might be less likely to vote for Trump now that he's a convicted felon, and just a few thousand votes may have the potential to tilt the election. CBS News chief Washington correspondent Major Garrett.
And there's polling data in, let's just say, 3 of those battleground states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, that show anywhere from 10 to 15% believe if there's a guilty verdict, it might influence how they approach their vote. Well, that's not a sizable total in the 100% context, but in states like Wisconsin, decided by 20,000, Michigan decided by 180,000, Pennsylvania decided in 2020 by 80,000. Suddenly that number, that percentage of people whose votes actually they thought beforehand could be influenced and possibly negatively about Trump if he's found guilty. Well, suddenly that becomes very, very important.
It's also possible a conviction could further energize Trump's supporters or elicit sympathy from independents. Experts say politics in the Trump era is very hard to predict.
Politically, it's more of a jump ball. Polls indicate that people supporting Trump are generally going to continue supporting Trump, and the people who oppose him will continue to oppose him. The question is, will there be a small sliver of the electorate whose minds will be changed?
This is an election that will be decided on the margins. So if he loses even just a handful of his supporters, that can be really consequential to the outcome. But what's notably different in 2024 than 2020 is we anticipate much lower turnout of voters in this election. Voters are generally turned off by both of these major candidates. And we have numerous third-party candidates, RFK Jr., of course, being one of those potential spoilers, but also Cornel West and Los Angeles' own Melina Abdullah, who are also going to be on the ballot, who could potentially be spoilers, honestly, in either direction.
And of course, the other huge wild card is sentencing. Will the judge send the former president to prison? We won't know that until July 11th when sentencing is scheduled. And of course, that's just 4 days before the Republican National Convention.
Exactly. And of course, there will be appeal. There may be more than one appeal. Yep. But let's even get past all of that. And we can go back to 2016, for example, the battleground states of Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, yep.
So that was 100,000 votes.
Yep.
Now this time that could make a big difference.
Exactly, because if you look at that, it was, as you said, 100,000 votes combined in those 3 states. It was that close in 2016. So will this energize his supporters to come out and vote, or will it depress the people, the independents, to not go out and vote or vote for Biden? I mean, these are all big question marks, but if it's a really close election decided on the margins, this could have an impact one way or the other.
Well, we know one other thing that's going to happen for sure. President Trump will hold a press conference tomorrow.
That's right.
So in New York.
It'll be interesting, to hear what he has to say.
And we'll have it covered.
Yeah.
All
Thanks,
right.
Pat.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks so much.
Well, California may be a deep blue state, but Donald Trump did win 6 million votes here in the last election, especially in the IE and the OC.